I bought it back. So those of you who have been watching this channel for a while will recognize this bike, or if you've gone back and viewed some of the videos from the past. I built this bike, this is a 75 CB550, right at 2 years ago, like 2 years and a month. So I sold it a while back. The person that bought it from me reached out the other day and said, hey, you know, I've loved the bike, but life happens and I don't ride it anymore. And it doesn't run because I've let it sit for too long. The carbs needed clean and you know, they're not necessarily a super handy person. So they said, hey, are you interested in me paying you to clean the carbs, get the bike running again so I can sell it? Or option two, are you interested in buying it back? So I went and checked it out yesterday, ended up striking up a deal where I bought it back. So it's officially back in the Classic Octane fleet again. So let me give you guys a little overview, if you're not familiar with this bike, of what all we did to it. So only a few things have changed since when I sold it. Some of those are, looks like they went with a different tail light mount. This one does have a light on it, so maybe they went and got it inspected and ran into one of the sticklers that requires a license plate light. So that's a little bit different than what we did. Tail light's the same, seat's the same, electronics and everything are all the same. I think she said she had the ignition coils replaced. So there's that. I'm trying to think of what else. Same tires, same headlight, same Dime City Speedos, same bars. Everything else looks really, really familiar. Same uni-pod filters I always run. That's not an original petcock. I don't know if we did that or if somebody else did that after the fact. But 99% of this bike is exactly how we left it. So if you remember, this is the one we did brush the tank on. Looks like it's held up pretty well, but probably gonna hit that again. There's a couple little rust spots showing through, and then it's just not very uniform, so we'll probably hit that with some, I don't know, some Scotch-Brite or something, get it all nice even again, maybe hit it with another coat of clear. We'll go into more detail about what we're gonna do to bring this bike back to life, but everything else seems to be in pretty good shape. So name of the game today is I'm going to see if I can get it running. I hopefully will get away with just a carb clean, but we'll see. So let me kind of get it set up and ready to be worked on, and we'll figure out what we need to do. All right, got it up on the center stand. Let's pull off these wing nuts the way I always mount these seats, and we'll check out that electronics tray in there, see if everything is how we left it. I think this is the bike that I tried out one of those cheaper batteries on, and I didn't talk to her enough to see if the battery was working out well or not. I know it's dead now, but I don't know if it's dead because it's been sitting for a year or, you know, it's actually dead. So, okay, definitely the same battery. Let me pull you guys over here. So this is the same battery. This layout feels different than I remember it being. It's also been 2 years, so I'm not 100% sure, but normally I put these batteries 90 degrees into the back, and then I thought I would have built in some mounts to hold the battery from moving around. But maybe we didn't do that. I know some of these electronics have been gone through. Like I said, she had the ignition coils replaced. I don't know what this wire is. I definitely wouldn't have run a wire over the top of this where it could get chafed easily, and use this blue tape. So I'm not 100% sure. Oh, that might be a battery tender. Oh yeah, that is a battery tender. Okay, so that makes sense for that. Yeah, so this is just a little PowerSonic battery. Like I said, it's like 25 bucks, so I wanted to give it a shot on this bike, and then I actually ended up selling it to her like a week after I finished it, so I never got to do a long-term review. So I'm probably gonna keep this battery just so that we can do a refresh on that video saying, hey, this battery works for a CB550 over an extended period of time, or the opposite of that, and we realize it doesn't work. So we're gonna need to throw a jump box on that here in a minute. So that all looks pretty normal. Let's see, what do we want to do next? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and throw the jump box on there. We can turn the key and we can just make sure all the electronics and everything are working like they should. Jump box is hooked up. Let's flip this key, make sure we don't let out any magic smoke. Okay, headlight is on. Oh yeah, this is one of the ones that doesn't have a headlight on-off switch. It's either high or low. That's interesting. What year is my other? What is this one? So this is a 76, and this is a 75, so that must have been when they switched over. Neutral light doesn't seem to be working, despite the bike being in neutral. That's something we can easily diagnose and look into later. Huh. Look at that. Definitely going to need to address the... Oh, interesting. There's actually, I see a broken wire, and I can pretty much bet money that that broken wire goes to the neutral light. So we'll have to investigate that. Not a huge deal. All right, cool. I'm going to turn this off, and let's do some mechanical checks. Just make sure there's oil in it, that kind of stuff. And then we will turn it over with the ignition off, just to make sure we build up enough oil pressure to turn that light off. Lead in the dipstick. Okay. Looks really, really clean too. I mean, judging by the odometer, she put 174 miles on this thing. Which makes me sad a little bit. 174 miles in 2 years. You know, I would have hoped somebody would have gotten more miles out of it and had more chance to ride it, but like, I totally understand the fact that life happens. So that oil is going to be totally good for us to continue down this path of getting it restarted. I am going to change it just because it's 2 years old. It's been sitting. You know, somebody will argue that it would be fine. Other people will argue. You know, I typically like to follow the rule of changing it once a year, regardless of mileage. So either 3,000 miles or a year, whichever comes first. So now that that's done, let's flip the key and turn it over and hope this oil pressure light turns off. Key's on. Like I said, we are going to leave the ignition off. Oh, hey, look. Our neutral light came back. Interesting. I wonder what that broken wire is for then. Must be high beam indicator. See if the turn signals work. Yep. Huh. Hey, look. It looks like this bike was before I figured out the whole diode situation to make our turn signals work. So this will be an opportunity for me to use those diodes. So that's cool. Let's hit this button and see what happens. Okay, so far so good. So I'm going to turn it over just enough to make sure that light turns off. Boom. That didn't take long. Neutral light. So we are going to have to clean the contact on that. I bet it's super easy. We won't worry about that. Sweet. So what I'm going to do now is pull off the pod filters, open up the garage door. We will shoot a little bit of carb cleaner down the carbs and see if we can get it to pop and bang. And if that works out, then we'll pull the carbs off and clean them. All right, here's the moment of truth. This gas tank does have some fuel in it, but she says she hasn't ridden it in over a year, so that's going to be some old gas. We're definitely just going to drain that out and replace it with some fresh stuff. So I'm not going to try and run it on its own fuel just yet. The reason I'm doing this is just because it's going to help us make sure that we still have spark and everything else before we move on to the carbs. So we'll just go real light. Down each carb. Let's see what happens. Key on. Still in neutral. We will turn the ignition on this time and hit the button. This is going to come back real easy. Let's yank those carbs off and give them a clean. Let's see if we can drain some of the fuel out of these carbs. So I'm going to try to catch it in this. I don't think this is going to work very well, but let's try. Oof. Oh no. That is That is nasty. Can you guys see the color? This bolt's gonna, or the screw's gonna probably fall in this glass. There wasn't much in there anyway. You see the color of that? Yeah, we are going to be pulling these off and giving them a good clean, because that is very gross. Alrighty. So here they are. They're a little on the rusty side. I have a project going for a vapor blasting cabinet, but it's not ready for prime time yet. So what I'm thinking about doing, and we'll see. I know I'm kind of blabbering on already, but I'll probably do a total rebuild on these, including like vapor blasting all the carbs and getting rid of all the rust and everything later down the road. Right now I'm just going to do a really good deep clean with carb cleaner. When we do that longer term one, we'll probably also use the ultrasonic cleaner and go a little bit more in depth. But for this, I really think a good kind of spray out carb clean rebuild, so to speak, is going to be more than enough, because like I said, these were rebuilt 175 miles ago, and then they've just kind of been sitting. So I went ahead and threw it on a white towel. Throwing it on a towel helps these little screws from not hitting this hard table and shooting halfway across my shop. So let's get to work pulling these bad boys apart. So I get the feeling these carbs are actually gone through once after I touched it, because one, I've never used a filter like this before. This is like a 90 degree. I mean, it's pretty cool, but I've never seen that before, so I wouldn't have put that on the bike. I also have never used these fuel line clamps before. And the next thing is these have 1, 2, 3 different types of screws on them, which is also something I have not done before. I don't think. I don't remember doing that, so not that it matters, but somebody's been in here, I think, since I have. So I'm going to grab an Allen of apparently 2 different sizes and a random Phillips, and we'll pull all these bowls off and see how gunked up they are on the inside. Here's what we're working with. So these two are pretty dry. These two have like that really sticky film on it. But again, overall, not terrible. So like I said, I'm going to go through, pull all these jets out, pull the floats off, and we'll just get them down to kind of the bare carb bodies, and we can start to blast through all the passages. Got all the parts stripped out. So what I'm going to do now is just hit this main carb body, like I said, blow through all the passages and everything with carb cleaner with the straw. Then I'm going to hit all of these parts kind of individually and blow through kind of the center of the jets, everything. Just, you know, make sure they're generally clean. Sometimes what I like to do on these are the actual pens that hold the floats in, is I put a drill and I put it in the chuck of the drill and I just spin it and I just hit it lightly with some Scotch-Brite or something like that, just to make sure they're nice and clean and the floats don't stick and have some nice kind of play to them like they're supposed to. So this is the boring part of just going through and blasting it out and cleaning it all. So I'll skip you guys ahead a little bit so you don't have to worry about that part. Went ahead and cleaned everything up. I hit some of the stuff on the Scotch-Brite wheel on the buffer, just to clean up some of the gunk that was stuck to all the brass pieces. I also hooked up my air compressor and blew out all the holes and passages and everything, so it looks all pretty good to me. I did find that the jet on what would this be, number 1 carb, was upside down, so the O-ring was actually on the wrong side. All the rest of them were fine. So whoever rebuilt these, like I said, after I had them, got a little bit mixed up and used a bunch of different hardware, and I don't know if I'd take my bike back to those people, but that's, again, beside the point. We're fixing it all now, so I'm going to start to put all this back together, and then we will, I guess, throw it back on the bike. Next step after that is going to be to clean out this of all the old gas. I'll probably flush some new gas through, just to make sure the petcock and everything is nice and clean, and then we'll go from there. So I'm running out of time for tonight, so I threw the carbs back on. I am going to knock out cleaning out the tank and everything tomorrow, but for tonight I wanted to see if we can get it fired up and running just with my auxiliary fuel tank. So we will turn the fuel on. I did check the floats, and all of them were accurate or set properly except for one. So I'm going to sit here and wait and see if it overflows, and see if maybe the last person that rebuilt these carbs set that float height to compensate for it leaking. I don't see any leaks, so I think it's fine. So we are going to, jump box is still hooked up. We're going to give it some choke, turn the key. My oil light's still out, which is kind of weird because we shouldn't have oil pressure. I'll just keep an eye on that. Okay, let's see if it'll start. Well, that worked pretty well. You can see it is a true cold start. I'm gonna let the choke off. Hasn't run in a year, I'm going to kind of let it sit here and idle for a little bit. The exhaust pipes are smoking, which I'm assuming is just probably some grease or something on there, but I'm going to sit and let it idle for a minute or two, just since it hasn't run in a while. Too soon. Our number 2 carb is leaking. So let me tap on that a little bit and see if the float maybe just stuck a little bit. All right. Couple taps and it stopped, but let me just keep an eye on it. All right, couple taps, like I said, and it stopped. So let me fire back up. So my number 2 carb is overflowing a little bit, so I can pretty much guarantee that when I found that one float that was adjusted just slightly off of the other 3, that it was the float from this number 2 carb, and that's probably what was adjusted to fix, was that leaking. So I'm out of time for tonight, but I am going to pull that off and probably off camera and just adjust that float to basically kind of tighten up a little bit more so that it'll close it off and, you know, stop that leak. But I am super stoked with how well that bike runs after sitting for so long, and like I said, only really being run for 174 miles in the last 2 years. I mean, a 20-minute carb clean and she's going to be good to go. So I'm going to pause it here for tonight. We will bring you back tomorrow where we will, like I said, fix that float, button it up, and then move on to cleaning the gas tank. And then the idea is tomorrow afternoon to take this bike for a ride. This the next day I was able to pull off the carbs again, adjust that float level on number 2, and then rehook up the auxiliary tank, and it seems to not be leaking. So we're going to move on to cleaning out this gas tank. It should be a pretty easy operation here. I don't know if you can see in there or not, but it does have some gas. But it looks like the coating we put on 2 years ago actually held up really well. So I think it's literally going to be a matter of draining it. I'm going to put a little bit of gas in it, and then flush out the petcock with some fresh gas, and then throw it back on. I think we're going to be good to go. Then I'll just give everything a once over, check the tire pressure is another almost flat, and kind of button it back up. And the idea is we're going to take this thing for a ride. So got my new GoPro with the microphone and everything hooked up. So we're going to attempt to take this thing for a test ride here in just a little bit with actual audio for the first time. So this is the color of the gas that came out of the gas tank. And this is what the color of fresh gas looks like. So yeah, definitely a good idea to drain that out. Also decided to just go ahead and pull the petcock off and start to give that a little clean out as well. So just about done with that. Alright, we got the gas tank back on. See if it'll fire up on its own fuel source. I've been charging this little battery, but I'm not convinced it's going to have enough juice to start this thing. This is a full cold start. Let's see. Take that for a cold start any day. Okay, here we go. This is my new attempt at a moto vlogging setup. So I got the GoPro, whatever, Hero 7 Black, their little mic adapter, a lapel mic, and my helmet. So I'm sure it sounds alright, or hopefully it at least sounds alright right now. The real test will be when we are on the road and have some wind noise. So went over everything like I said. Checked the tire pressures, checked the brakes, checked, you know, kind of nut and bolt, make sure there's nothing crazy, nothing loose, you know. It all seems to be in order, so I'm not going to go super far just because we haven't actually transferred this bike into my name or anything like that yet, so we're just going to stick around the neighborhood. But I'm not even sure. Throw it on reserve. If this battery is even charged enough to start us back up. Let's see. Oh yeah. I'm super impressed with how well this bike is running. I mean, I'd like to claim it on my excellent, you know, CB carb. Oh, that's loose. Okay. Carb tuning skills and carb rebuild skills, but I think this is just one of the good ones. All right. See if I can back out of here without hitting my car. I'm gonna try to go this way, actually. There's a little new toy right there that I haven't shown you guys yet. We'll get into that. Yeah, thread the needle. Alright. Closing my helmet, so we'll see how that goes. to be doing pretty well. This clutch seems really light, which I'm surprised. It's even lighter than my Barn to Brat CB550. Not complaining though. Compared to my Triumph, it's a dream, because my Triumph you have to like get a full forearm workout to pull the clutch on that thing. Seems to be pretty happy. Let's do a little braking test here. Yeah, I might end up bleeding this front caliper a little bit. It stops, but I mean, not as well as I'd like. These CB550s never really do, but just go down this this road here. So we can get it a little bit higher speed. Not bad, not bad at all. This one's got a little bit of kind of hesitation and pops and bangs at low RPM, so we'll probably need to mess with those idle mixture and like low speed mixture screws. I think the clutch just slipped a little bit. Let's see. Which is probably why it's so light to pull. It might not be engaging all the way, so we'll put that on the list. Gonna pull into this little church parking lot up here. It seems to be doing pretty well. Still got some cobwebs on it. So yeah, I think we'll need to adjust our clutch a little bit. Yeah, I mean, there's already some play in that. And then just kind of making a list, we need to do our diode so that the indicator works for the left and for the right. Easy fix for us. High beam indicator is not working, which I think I found is a broken wire. Oil pressure light works, but if you move some of those wires around, it can kind of stop working. Neutral light seems to be working fine. Bleed the front brakes. That's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go ahead and ride it home, just because I didn't put all that much gas in it. We can get on it a little bit going out of this parking lot. See how she does. yeah. Clutch definitely needs to be adjusted. Run over a skunk, shall we? No, that smells nice. We're back, and hopefully you guys were able to hear me all right on that video. I haven't checked it out yet, but fingers crossed the Moto vlog setup is going to work out well. So quick overview of the bike, just in case that audio didn't work out. Overall, runs great. I did just mess with the mixture screws. I like to run about a half a turn out on these 550s with pod filters, 4-in-1 exhaust, 110 main jets, 38 secondaries. I think that's pretty much it, all the variables. That exact setup runs really, really well on the Barn to Brat 550, so I'm just going to mimic it on this. Does definitely need a clutch adjustment. That's a quick and easy thing. I'm going to probably bleed those front brakes. Overall, the bike is in really, really good shape. So, I mean, it sat for 2 years, but it seems to be very much in the same condition as it was when I sold it. So I do need to, like I said, go through and do the indicator, diode, make sure our high beam indicator works, just button up the wiring basically on the instrument cluster. Anything else? Tail light, all the headlights, everything else seems to work well. The gauges work well. It fires right up. All the lights work. The mirrors are good. Okay, I need to tighten that mirror over there. Really, the bike is pretty much back to being road ready, at least after another 15 minutes of work. So I'm kind of undecided what I'm going to do with this bike. The hoarder side of me wants to keep it, but I have 5 CB550s right now. That's right, I have 5. That means I have 2 of them that you guys don't even know about yet. Which you can probably see in the background, so not a huge surprise. I'm not trying to hide it, but I am a bit of a 550 hoarder, so I really don't need another one. I just couldn't pass this deal up, just because, you know, she sold it back to me for a really good price, and I didn't really have to do all that much work to get it back on the road. So if you guys are interested in picking this bike up, hit me up on maybe a DM on Instagram. You can email me classicoctane.com and we can kind of work out. I would prefer a local pickup. I don't really want to ship it motorcycles just because it's easier to get cash in person. But if you're interested in this bike, let me know. If we don't sell it now, I'll probably just park it and wait until a little bit more into the springtime and maybe list it officially. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. I appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed watching me bring back an old project. We will jump right back into the KZ750 in the next video. So see you guys soon.